afternoon, everyone. So, as you can see, it's always a challenge to start a session after lunch, but that is how it is, and we will begin with the topic that has been given to me this year is best practices in manufacturing, with a journey of 28 years in manufacturing and in machinery. I have made a very simple presentation because in India still manufacturing is at the very infant stage and we have just scratched the surface, and therefore the presentation will be very simple but straightforward. Some small simple things that we need to do in our factories that will help us to produce good quality furniture. I picked up some top 6 parameters which are important for best practices, especially in India, and the topmost that comes after my various visits to different factories is housekeeping. Very basic practice, but a very important practice. I'll talk about that in my next slide. And of course, quality is an issue in Indian factories, and I have seen many factories working towards working very hard towards quality, developing systems and software, making their processes, trying to make processes stable. So that is what business is. Business is making variables constant, and a more focus on packaging, because with the morning session that we had, e-commerce, packaging becomes very important as the product would move from place A to place B with e-commerce coming into business. And most important that is also required in India is training of manpower. So first thing in housekeeping, a clean workplace. So a small recommendation from our side is you should have a housekeeping team in place at your factory whose responsibility is to keep the factory clean. Very simple. Second is identification of parts. So every part that is there in the factory, whether it's a raw material, finished good or work in progress, needs to be identified. A proper factory layout so that there is proper material movement, there is no backtracking of material, as well as there is no rejection of material, because the more the material moves, you intend to bring in dents or scratches on the material. Proper material storage and retrieval. So as I said, identification of material, properly stored, easy to store it and easy to retrieve. So there are certain handling equipments that can be used for storage and retrieval, like scissor lifts or vacuum lifts, roller conveyors, storage racks. So these are some important areas that needs to be focused on. With material handling equipment, it also helps you in reducing the fatigue of your employee, because that's very, very important, because in the morning when an employee comes to the factory, he is really charged up, but by afternoon, as we all know that after lunch the energy level goes down, and therefore it is very, very important to maintain a constant energy level with your workers or with the operators at the factory. It is important to give them some material handling equipments like scissor lifts, where they don't have to bend down to pick up material. And floor conditions also really very important for smooth and easy movement of material. There are certain pictures which I have put onto this slide where you can see material being stored. This is an Indian factory. Material being stored on roller conveyors, properly identified, and moving on transfer trolleys. So when you as an owner, when you move on the factory, you know which material is this, for which project, for which customer. And it becomes easier for you to identify and also to inform to your respective customer the status of his order or his workpiece. The second important factor is quality assurance, and this of course comes through passion. There are certain factories in India who really produce good quality kitchens. One of them is Tiara Kitchen at Ahmedabad. A young person, but full of passion, and it's really worth visiting his factory. If any one of you would like to be interested in visiting this factory, you are most welcome. It's a difficult path because it took him a long time, 6 to 7 years, to come to the quality standards what we see in Europe or in developed countries. It is okay. The challenges are, of course, training of manpower, skill development, availability of good raw material, stable processes. So these are the challenges that he went through, but he stuck to it. He said, okay, I know it's a difficult path, but I would like to take this difficult path and achieve the topmost quality. So as you said, challenges, yes, quality of raw material is one of them, which I have listed down. So therefore, incoming inspection becomes very, very important. So incoming inspection, of course, this is, it seems to be a very small term on this slide, but a very deep subject where you need to have various quality checking procedures, incoming checking procedures, instruments to check your raw material, a full-fledged, I would say, incoming quality lab, because that is the foundation of good quality product. So we have various details on these, and I would love to share it with all of you. What are the incoming inspection procedures, instruments to be used, how to set up a quality lab, and work towards that. A quality assurance lab, of course, for incoming inspection as well as for your work in progress and for your finished good. So right from quality inspection machines for checking scratch resistance of your melamine board, or checking the strength of edge material, the glue bonding strength. So these are various processes and instruments that needs to be invested into for setting up a quality assurance lab. Yeah. We heard in the morning session from Mr. Srikanth of Homelane, and his focus, or his team's focus, his company's focus was on good quality installation. And he said what we need to do is we need to engage our customers, and at the end of the day, when we leave the customer's place, he should be a happy customer. And therefore, product installation, good friendly installation friendly designs, these are important areas where we need to focus on in order to satisfy our customers. Another important area is systems and software, because this would help you in bringing down your non-value added costs. So the most important software that is being used in all the furniture factories of the world is the optimization software. So because the board that you buy is at a price, and it needs to be used properly, optimized properly, and therefore you need an optimization software so that you have minimum wastage of your raw material, especially the panel or the board. A good design software, which many of the factories have started using it here in India, and I can see good designs coming up now in India in various showrooms or in various factories. So it's really very helpful. Planning and scheduling is something which needs to be really worked into still. In many factories in India, I see a huge room of improvement that needs to be worked into, especially on planning and scheduling. And we as manufacturers, we need to focus on the deliveries. So the delivery schedule that we promise to a customer needs to be achieved. And this can be achieved with a good planning and scheduling software. And these softwares are available in market, where if you design a kitchen and you say, okay, this is my delivery date, it will give you the complete plan that when should you order the raw material, when should the raw material come to your factory, what processes it should undergo, and when the delivery should happen. So these are the softwares which are very important. Also, there is a manufacturing software where we say in a very simple language where machines talk to each other. So it's nothing but a barcode software. So every part which is inside the factory has a barcode. So a part is identified with help of the barcode. It is similar to what we have. We also all have our barcodes. My barcode is Govind. Your barcode is Mr. Vaze. So if I don't have a barcode, if I don't have a name, so you have to identify. How do you identify? So it is as simple as that. So every part that is cut on a saw, or it needs to be identified, and the barcode is the best way to identify. And this barcode would have all the information from project name to customer name, whether it's a left side panel or a right side panel, a top panel, whether it is a panel with drilling or without drilling, with grooves, without grooves. It's a shutter with hinge boring. It has all the details, edge banding details also, whether all the four sides are with 2 mm edge band or thin edges. So it contains all this information, and when you scan it, the next machine reads, yes, this is the part and I need to run this program. So you eliminate one big variable in your factory, that is your manpower who selects the program on the CNC machine. He says, okay, this is a brown color part of 400 by 495 and it's a side panel, and he selects the program. Instead of LH, he selects the RH program, and it ends up into a mistake or a rejection. So barcode will help all of us in identifying the part and also processing the part properly at various stages of your production. Another important software which is becoming more and more important is the communication software. The communication software from customer to design, from design to planning, scheduling, to manufacturing, to packing, and to delivery. And in future days to come, this is going to become more and more important. And today, the communication software that we use is WhatsApp. So a sales guy goes to a customer's place, he makes a picture and he sends it to the design department, and he says, okay, this is where we have to make a kitchen. And but there are other softwares also, good softwares available in the market, which will help you in proper communication. It will also give the customer the actual stage of his product. So whether it is in design stage, or it is in manufacturing stage, or in packing or delivery stage. Yeah. So in a factory, we all know the processes that we follow. They are processes which are not stable, and it's a challenge for all of us to have stable processes. And business is a process which is full of variables, so we need to make it constant. Very important area which I would like to highlight upon is a single supplier policy. When you run a factory, when you buy raw materials, whether it is boards or laminates, adhesives, fittings, even packing material, I believe single supplier policy really plays a very, very important role. And if we all work with a single supplier, your processes would become stable. You can do in the initial stage of your business. Work with a single supplier for at least 5 years and develop some stable processes that, okay, this would be my incoming inspection process, this is what is my work in progress inspection procedure, and my final inspection procedure. Then slowly you can move on to a 2 supplier platform. Automation, of course, would make your process very stable, because your dependency on manpower would come down, and manpower today is one of the biggest variable in furniture industry. Since morning I have met close to around 20-30 manufacturers, and the biggest hurdle that they face or the biggest challenge, I would say, today is for them is skilled manpower. So therefore it is very important to invest in automation. It is important to invest in system driven factories or system driven equipments, which would help you in stabilizing your processes at your factory level. Packaging, another important area. Why? Because the product that is manufactured at our factories needs respect, and therefore we need to pack it properly before delivery, and it should reach the customer's place in a nice form rather than in a damaged or an unpacked form. So time has come, I would say, for all Indian factories to invest in packaging, invest in automation for packaging. And it's a continuous improvement exercise where you need to really work it's an important area. You can't say that it's not an important area. I have invested in good raw material, I have invested in good machinery and equipment, my design is good, the quality of product is good, but if the packaging is not good enough, and if it reaches in a damaged form at a customer's place, the whole exercise of your setting up the processes for a good factory is a waste. So therefore it's a continuous process, and it needs to be improved upon on a regular basis. Most important is at your factory you need to palletize your products. So the products need not be kept on floor. So we need to put them on proper pallets or on proper roller conveyors, because the product, it's your investment, or it's your money which is lying at the shop floor. The last but the most important is your manpower. As during my presentation I said, it is one of your variables in the factory, but it is also an important area where you need to train your manpower, because a trained manpower then would also be efficient and would produce products in good quality. It's the first statement is really very, very important here. I would say this again and again, that you need to invest in employees. So therefore, pick up fresh employees, train them, because you can easily mold them into your culture, into your factory's culture. So, and it is a continuous process again, training, retraining of your employees. In a woodworking process or in furniture manufacturing process, the most important process is edge banding, and it's the most critical machine. Therefore, we need owners on these machines. Owners in the sense, the team that you have on your factory or on your shop floor should own this machine. Yes, this is my machine, and I need to fine tune it, I need to set it, I need to clean it, I need to do preventive maintenance, lubricate this machine. So that would really help, because edge banding decides the finish of your product, of the kitchen also. Okay, training, as we said, it's a continuous activity. A skill enhancement schedule. Okay, this it's a program where you get a fresh employee at your factory, you train him on one process. Once he's doing really good in that particular process, like cutting, you upgrade him to the next process. So upgradation of his skills is very, very important, and there needs to be a schedule that yes, over a period of 6 months, from cutting expert you would become an edge banding expert, or from edge banding expert you will become a CNC expert. That needs to be very, very clearly communicated to the employee, so he knows his roadmap about his skill development, and you can engage him for a longer time at your factory. And with this, he becomes multi-skilled person, which is available to you at your factory, and it really helps. A multi-skilled person at the factory would really help you in producing good quality furniture, and also good installation of the product. So these were my 6 topics on best practices. Still, we have not gone in depth into best practices, because we have best practices like ISO, we have best practices like Kaizen, 5S, but these are something which are, I would say, further in-depth practices. What I have touched upon is very simple 6 processes or 6 practices in manufacturing. It's a good question, because okay, let's talk about the type of raw material that goes inside a kitchen. We are talking about boards here, we are talking about laminates, we are talking about edge material, adhesives, and fittings. These are the major raw material. Why I did put that point in my presentation about a single supplier is that, because if you engage a particular supplier and you say, okay, this is a new factory which I have started and I would like to work with you, you give me your best raw material, whether it is boards or laminates, and I want to work with you for a period of 5 years. The commitment from the supplier would be really on a higher side for you, and you would say, yes, I have a customer here who's ready to work with me for next 5 years, and I would be ready to invest for him. So if I don't have a particular color available with me, I would say, okay, if there is a big project coming up in a particular color, I will surely work out on that, and I will come back to you with a solution. The idea behind this single supplier policy is because raw material is a variable today in India, and if you make your raw material constant, your processes and your quality also would become constant. So that was the idea behind this point. So it's same as with adhesives or with edge band or with fittings also. And there are certain examples in India where factories have been successful because they follow this single supplier policy. So that is the reason this point was put up on in my presentation. No, single supplier for each product, I would say, each raw material. Yes, yeah.
I have a question. It is often said that automation reduces the manpower dependency and the cost. But as a manufacturer, my experience has been that you require super skilled manpower to handle the CNC machines, and you are more dependent on the manpower.
I would disagree a little bit here. In fact, automation leads to de-skilling. So today's CNC machines are so user-friendly. They are Windows-based, and as I showed you that barcode is part of automation. So I have seen normal workers working on CNC machines. Their job is to just scan the barcode, place the workpiece, and press the green button. So that is how easy it is. But yes, it is also equally important that you have one person in your factory who is well trained on most of these machines, who becomes either your production supervisor, or in Indian factories it is called as Mukadam. So who drives the workers to produce, and this person would also, his job is to also train the existing factory workers on various machines. So that is the process. Therefore I said in-house training is very, very important. What we really, of course, all the Indian factories, they do undergo an external training program at different places. But it's also important that we have an internal training program for skill enhancement or skill development at the factory level.
Just in continuation to what Karindra asked, I wanted to kind of also point on the same point, saying single supplier per product that you said. Well, just from my understanding, I would ask you, the industry is at a very nascent stage. I mean, like it's very early stages, and probably this comment or this suggestion is very much applicable to matured markets, because of the fact is the customers are not matured at the moment, nor are the suppliers. Precisely because of which having this practice, which of course is one of the best practice, is very impractical to apply here in the Indian context. What's your view onto this?
In fact, my statement was that when you are in the initial stage, it would be really helpful to work with a single supplier. But as you grow and if you are matured enough, then there are big organizations who work with multiple suppliers. But still, I've seen even big organizations like Godrej or L&T or any big organizations. Maximum is they work with two suppliers because their idea is to ensure that the incoming raw material would satisfy their quality needs. So they have put up some quality parameters and they say, okay, I would like to ensure that these quality parameters are achieved, and therefore I would like to work with one or maximum two raw material suppliers. Yeah. Whether it is steel or whether it is any kind of I took an example of L&T because they also work in a lot of they have a lot of procurement of steel, so that's the reason.
Thank you.
What is your suggestion for management and storage of the cut panels?
Yes, very good question.
And also you showed one photograph in your presentation that was a very interesting concept. I would recommend to you to show that again.
Okay, okay. Can you run my presentation? This one, right? Okay. Yes. In furniture, there are factories which follow various kind of methods. We call them sorting. So when do you sort the material? Is it after cutting, or is it after edge banding, or is it after drilling, that is just before packing? So in mass manufacturing, the sorting is only done after all your operations are over. So cutting, edge banding, drilling, and just before packing you sort it out and pack. But in customized factories or customization, where you have a batch size of minimum 1 to batch size of 5, the sorting is preferred after cutting, because after cutting is when the process will start changing. So a panel would have a blue color edge band, the other panel would have a different color edge band. So the sorting needs to be done after cutting. And this is a photograph, not of sorting after cutting, but this is a photograph of managing your offcuts. So after cutting, where do you keep your offcuts? So
Can you enlarge that?
I think they'll have to do it. Can you enlarge this slide?
Because offcuts also where our margin is reduced.
Yeah. So you need to decide, okay, any panel which is more than 300 mm would be an offcut in my factory, and I will reuse this panel in my next project or in my future projects. So you can sort them out and keep it in a place which is well defined. This is my offcut area in vertical manner, and each offcut needs also to be labeled with a barcode. So then retrieval is easy. So, and this offcuts needs to have we call it as an offcut summary, which needs to be in your software, that what offcuts are available in your factory.